Yo, welcome back. Yo, look, we got our first story up of the day, and ironically, it might be one of the weakest ones, but it's one of the most impactful. Yo, the BBC is looking to remove its license with the Six Nations. What? What? Now, let's put some context in between this. Six Nations has been shown by the BBC and ITV for the better part of the last 4 years, but it seems, and even longer. I think they split it over the course of the last 4 years, but it had been jumping between a few of these channels. But most importantly, now it looks like they are looking to let this go. It doesn't look like it's being very, I guess, profitable for BBC in this situation, and they are taking away their step into it. And so it looks like for the moment, ITV is going to have a little bit of exclusivity, but it doesn't seem like that's going to be the only situation for them. And now there is a giant worry that there is going to be a bidding war for Six Nations and the chance that some games might get behind a paywall. Now, I want to be able to set the context. I want to do better in getting that context before putting an opinion out there. Now, some of the people that are going to be contenders for it are platforms like Netflix, Sky TV, which had it back in 2015 last, TNT, and Amazon Prime Sports as well. So there are a number of at least contenders to know that the Six Nation isn't going to go away. Obviously, we still got the Six Nation Full Contact that's coming back for season 2 in 2025. But after the 2025 season, it's no longer going to be on the BBC, and now it's up to whoever to be able to take advantage of it. Now, in my opinion, I really actually don't think this is a bad thing. I think there's a lot of people who are afraid of it not being on free to TV in the UK. And I know in the US, it doesn't necessarily impact us, but at the same time, it kind of does. Because even though I think right now NBC had the Six Nations or Flow has the Six Nations, but whoever is this next streaming company or next company to be able to get it will have a ripple effect on what happens throughout the rest of the other countries. So I look at it like we saw with the Super Bowl this year, where Peacock took a playoff game, an NFL playoff game, and streamed it for the first time, where it was behind a paywall, quote, quote. But, and it did numbers, right? Now, I'm not saying Six Nations is going to do the same in numbers, but I think this is a good chance of being able to move forward, and especially to be able to help the rugby game be able to find new value in places that they need to. One area right now we know with the women's premiership, they are currently under TNT, which is WB Discovery. And that allows them to be able to present onto platforms like Max. This is something that I think adds a lot more value than what has been on TV, because you have obviously the availability everywhere that you go. I know here in Brazil, we received the Six Nations under Star Plus, which is under Disney Plus, which is now migrating into the Disney Plus app. I think in the US, it's the same thing with the Hulu. So to be able to have these games on the platforms where, one, they naturally were already being attended on. Most of the rugby games that we deal with typically happen were on YouTube, or you're seeing it on a streaming site. Obviously, Rugby Pass is now taken over for a lot of sevens. We got the Rugby Network, and then you got Flow Rugby as well as two. But in the situation, putting the Six Nations in a place where everybody has access, and they're already going to, I think isn't the biggest deal. Like, unless, and even when it comes to the bars and situations, you either have smart TVs or you already have packages that are already capably going to be handling that. So I don't think this is going to be the biggest deal. And there's a lot of complaint about the fact that it's going behind the paywall, and that there is the worry that, for all this tradition, especially in a place like Wales, I love that Rugby Planet Rugby. This is ruck.co. Put one of the tweets by Hyde Williams where he said, "Rugby is central to Welsh culture and identity. Putting the Six Nations behind a paywall would be a disaster. Westminster will later vote on our amendment to the media bill, which would add the Six Nations to a Group A list. Played Seamaroo urge other Welsh MPs to vote accordingly. Like, this would make sense if this was behind an individual installer, right? Like a smaller independent, and not that I'm against independent streamers, but a smaller streamer that it's a little bit more difficult and less consistent. But if your options are things like Amazon Prime, who's absolutely trying to get into sports, and so many people have Amazon Prime simply because of the shipping capabilities for Amazon, or you're trying to get on Netflix, which is slowly getting to more live and content where you naturally already have an access, and most people are already on there. Most people who are in, of course, a specific economic world are on Netflix. Like, to put it on that gives you a far greater reach and far greater access than the limitations of what the satellite does for your free to TV or what you do on your traditional linear channels. It doesn't even affect your bar elements. I feel like this idea would have made sense in terms of like the worry of it being behind a paywall 5 years ago, pre-pandemic, would have made sense because it's not a natural location outside of Netflix. But give a quick shout out, Jackson Anderson, saying, hey, Gift, I saw your live and thought I'll say hi. Got to run, but I'll try and come back and watch the show later. Thanks for all your content. Take care. Much love from the motherland. Jackson, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you for the love. Shout out from the continent, man. Much blessings. Hope you have a great day of work today as well, too. But going back to what I'm saying, I don't think that this is the same argument that would have been made 5 years ago whenever there was the real worry of being behind a actual paywall, where it was a disconnect from your normal day-to-days. Even to this day, now it's not. It's not in 2024, not since the pandemic, not since the huge influx going into streaming. And this is something that, once again, can reach people that you thought TV does, but now streaming does. Six Nations on Netflix, in addition to Full Contact, is gangbusters. That is a gangbuster situation. Netflix will love it because the Six Nations will be cheap. Then you got the Full Contact, which means the footage that's used will be less limited. You get real full game footage. Not that they did a bad job, but they get to have all the game footage, and that's a big deal. That is a massive deal. Amazon Prime, I already said, I think would be massive. Amazon Prime is giving out money, and they are absolutely in the looks for it. I know they have the quote technical reach, but I don't think they have the same clout as a Netflix, but I would love to see him. TNT, it's here or there. Again, WB Discovery is a huge mess, so I'd always be suspect, but again, if you already got women's premiership, then to be able to get to Six Nations is a very natural step. And I would assume they would also take Six Nations women, which I think they might already have at that point. So it'd be a little bit more concrete and you'd have a lot more consistency. So ITV, you're going to have to deal with not having exclusivity, but, who cares? Like, it's just one channel. And again, linear channels that don't have streaming behind them are basically going to be burnt out of the situation. But let me know what you guys think, yo. Like, what do you think about the Six Nations leaving BBC, especially whenever you are in Europe? And what do you feel it means to be able to put it into another channel, especially into a streamer? Let me know what your thoughts are, man. And
buckwheat is changing lives. My name is GiftTime. I'm here with Health Enhanced Foods, and I want to tell you about one of my favorite products on our shelves, buckwheat baking mix. Buckwheat is a seed that is incredibly nutrient and protein dense. But what makes it even more important, that buckwheat baking mix is absolutely gluten-free. A lot of times whenever people have buckwheat mixes, they actually even hold wheat inside of it. So it's not fully gluten. And if you're a person that is celiac or diabetic, or you're just really trying to be health conscious, it's not something that you want to have to worry about. What makes our buckwheat baking mix even more important is that it is versatile. You can use it for pancakes, you can use it for waffles, you can use it for making loaves of bread, you can make it for cupcakes. But what helps even more is that it is allergen-free, it is nut-free, it is dairy-free, that there is no additional additives in it. There's no leavening there, so that if you want to be able to raise your bread, you can put in the baking powder yourself and get it fluffy. If you don't, you absolutely absolutely do not have to. You get the bread that you love without the cost to your health. You can absolutely find buckwheat baking mix at healthenhancedfoods.com. Absolutely check it out. Get your nostalgia back. Get back to eating and loving the way that you are, and absolutely get back to the energy that you know that you can get without having to destroy yourself. I'm looking forward to seeing you get it. Let's go.